And hello again, dear ones. Rev Briz over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today. Happens every Tuesday here on the New Thought Media Network at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, right before our dear friend and new program that happens at 3, which is the Vibrant Living Hour with Ken Ludwig. And you're going to hear a little bit more about that a little bit later in today's program. But we want to welcome you here to this here on Tuesday. So, the whole idea, folks, if you're new with us, if this is your first time catching the New Thought Today, the idea is Rev Z and I are here to take a look at the evolution of this New Thought philosophy and where it's going, where it's taken us, what the future holds, what the idea of New Thought progressing and, dare I say, evolving into the future, what that holds and what it looks like. And we want you involved in the conversation. So please feel free to make shout out your comments, drop a comment or a question or anything like that in the comments to this program. And if appropriate, and it feels like it fits well, we might just bring it into the conversation. So, all right. So Z, New Thought Today. You and I, we've been doing some work in the background and some collaboration on where this program's going to go, where it started, what we've traversed so far, and what the future holds. So far, we've had some great guests. We've had some really deep conversations around the guiding principles and ideas in New Thought Today, as far as the global vision for Centers for Spiritual Living. We have had some people asking, are we going to bring some divine science and some folks from Unity and stuff like that into the conversation? Absolutely. Love to do that in the future. And again, you and I have been doing some work. Why not give the folks at home an insider's peek, some of the things we've been talking about, some of where we're going to go with this?
Sure. So, one thing that we thought is paramount here is the whole idea of how do we activate these teachings in our lives, and not just on Sundays, but Monday through Sunday. Right. And so we're looking at those kinds of ideas and trying to segment it so that we look at community, and so that we look at food, clothing, and shelter, and ideas that help build a community at all of its parts. Because we know that if someone is not eating or does not have a place to stay, that's going to be very difficult for them to self-actualize. Yeah. Or start thinking about higher consciousness level things. And so we want to look at that, and we want to look at the whole thing of safety and security, and the good thing about these, they all blend together, right? So one will bolster another, and we want to look at people, places, communities that are doing things that are merited, if you will, that are highlighting these principles in action. We want to have conversations with you in the audience to give us ideas or things that you see that are noteworthy, or things that you see that need pointing to. I'm looking here for my notes. I wrote them here. Yeah, self-empowerment is the other one, obviously. I mean, that's what this teaching is about, is how to empower yourself to be a better person, to be a better neighbor, to be a better person in relationship. And so that's also there. And then we got a whole new segment that we want to talk about. I don't know if now we want to bring it up right now, but
no, we'll do that. We'll do that.
We'll do that later. Okay.
Well, we got something special for you later, folks.
Yeah. And so that's what we're looking to do, because we believe, I mean, right now we're dealing in a either or kind of situation in terms of politics, in terms of the way we approach things, looking at things of being separate, or looking at exclusivity, and all these things begin to erode the foundation of humanity that speaks to the oneness and the divine relationship between everything in the cosmos. I mean, we hear this statement about we're made from stardust. Well, if we're made from stardust, that means we have a connection with everything. And so we have to begin to live in that manner of relationship so that we can create this web of life, or accentuate and acknowledge this web of life. It's always there so that we can live in this new thought of a world that works for everyone.
Right. Yes. You know, it's great. I love what you're sharing. And Brother Wayne's on the chat box asking, and this is a question that I've seen you asking of quite a few of us, Wayne, right? And I applaud you. You're asking great questions, and you're asking it of a number of different people and a lot of different shows to gather a great, I would trust, a wide perspective of this. But what fosters a living faith in oneness individually and collectively? And I'd have to say that that's demonstration.
Yes.
It's the demonstrations that we have that say, hey, we put our faith in something, and it demonstrates because of the collective beliefs, because of the collective prayer work, the collective work in consciousness. And so it is both that is why, for me, and I recommend it highly, spiritual community is such an important aspect of what we do. Now, when I say spiritual community, I don't mean that has to be the church that Reverend Alzia serves, right? Center for Spiritual Living, Denver. We'd love it if it is. We'd love if you like his style, that you support the community that he's serving right now. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be whatever spiritual community is the one that serves you, because it is in community that we get to experience that collective demonstration.
Right. Right. And build those relationships. I mean, like a great place to start is a community garden.
Yeah.
You know, that means you have shared work and shared responsibility, right? So you can get a few people, find a plot of land somewhere, put something in the ground, and rotate who waters it, or who weeds it, or do it together. I mean, there's so many options, but that particular project where you are working side by side and you're having general conversations and you're getting to know a person at another level begins to create bona fide relationships. Not just I have you as a friend on Facebook, but a friend that I can actually call and we can talk through problems I can get mad at, we can make up, because that is the nature of the evolution of relationships, right? You think about any relationship, it's definitely not the same as it was when you first started it, whether that's with your friend or your spouse or your partner or whatever.
And you're saying the giant $64,000 word of the day. There's the right. I don't have a rubber chicken to drop off the ceiling. But, and if you recognize that reference, man, do we need to have a conversation? So, but point being that it's all about the relationships.
Yeah.
It's all about how we do relationship, and are we willing to do relationship. And Z and I were talking before this show today, and we were talking about how almost all of society's ills right now, and we could talk about guns, and we can talk about the unhoused, and we can talk about other forms of violence that are happening in the world, and misperceptions, and it all comes back to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know that starts with our relationship with ourselves. However, the bigger question, and what we want to explore in the coming weeks and coming months, is how are we in relationship with whoever is next to us, whoever we get to call our next door neighbor, or is at the community garden, or is shopping at the co-op, or we just happen to bump into at the hardware store.
Yeah, because once we establish that relationship with ourselves, that automatically, I think, also speaks to that relationship with the divine. Because if I have idea of the creator of all things as being uh, only punitive, only punishing, never forgiving, all those things that put me in a light of fear and separation, and all these things that I'm trying to make a relationship with this distant thing. There's going to be challenges.
Right.
But if I have this relationship with myself and the divine, knowing that we are in constant communication and that we are made of divine stuff, we are made of God's stuff, there's a communication going on all the times anyway, as we follow the quantum physics, because we know once two things are entangled and correlated, they will never ever be unconnected or uncorrelated, no matter what the space, and it does not have an effect by time. So if everything came from this initial Big Bang, first cause, first thought, I mean, we described it in many different ways because we live on many different planes, a physical, a mental, an emotional, a spiritual, and each one of those could be broken down into many other planes. But we know that there's a connection between all of them. And so when we can establish that understanding and begin to work from that, relationships become, I think, a lot easier.
Right. Yes.
Because we're looking in the mirror.
Because we're looking in the mirror. Yes, exactly. So we've got to build the relationships first with ourselves, then around our immediate community, and whether that's virtual or directly, both are absolutely necessary. Right. So yeah, thank you, Diego. This is a spiritual community. Yes, New Thought. That's exactly uh, what we're intending and what this is all about. Uh, and uh, and following up, right, we learn to expect the best, bless the rest, and trust where this path takes us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And along the way, we're gonna bump into people that we don't understand and that don't understand us.
Right.
And along the way, we're gonna learn to even the people that do understand us. See how long we known each other now? Gee, gosh,
Oh, it's been at least
10, 12
11
years.
years, if
Yeah,
not more, probably more than that,
yeah.
probably 12, 13 years.
It must have been '08, I think. So,
Yeah,
or '07, maybe even fall of '07, spring of '08, something like that.
something like
So,
that.
and in all that time, um, have you ever thought to yourself, my God, that guy is nuts.
Yeah.
That guy's crazy.
Yep. And I'm sure you thought the same about me.
Exactly. And there have been times where I don't get it. I don't understand what the heck he's trying to teach here. I don't understand what's going on here. And we've been in some great programs and projects together, some that did well, some that failed miserably, not miserably, but just, outright, okay, well, that was fun. That ain't gonna happen a second time.
Right, right.
Stuff of that nature, right? But every time we've learned to communicate better.
Yes.
And over the years, well, heck, I call you one of my best friends at this point.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
over the years, our relationship has stood the test of, I don't get you, but I'm willing to stay open to the fact that the divine's going through you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about that is, as you were saying it, I was thinking, I was like, when we first met each other, I always had the ability to make a comment about something that I didn't like or didn't understand, but I wasn't comfortable for whatever reason. But as we continued developing the relationship and exchanging ideas and backgrounds and points of view, now we're at a point to where, like just before we came on, we was thinking about we want to do this kind of background and and he said, "How you like that?" I said, "No, I don't like that." But a lot of people would say if they're not comfortable in that relationship, well, it's okay. Really saying I don't like that, but as opposed to saying that, they would say it's okay.
Yeah.
And as we begin to have a honest relationship with people, first we learn their temperaments, so we can know how to say things that may not be taken in a good light, and we know when to say them, but we have to say them.
Right.
Because now we'll start avoiding.
Speaking of knowing when to say things, I got to be careful about inviting people to comment on my craziness. For those that don't know, the last name's the same here because this is my brother from my mother. This is my brother Michael. Good to see you, my man. Glad you're with us. Thank you, Terry, for not commenting on the craziness. Uh, uh, but yes, we learn to communicate. We learn to be together in relationship, and that's where real community happens. So again, like I was saying earlier, right, wherever the spiritual part of the community, wherever all that happens, we've got to, I believe, have the both hand. We got to be able to shake somebody's hand, to give them a hug on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday afternoon or wherever, whenever, regardless, and a way to stay connected beyond those times and into what, well, the future, into this next experience we've got going.
Yeah. Because we are now, I mean, if we just take an inventory, right? Take quick inventory of the society we living in, right? We have obviously the COVID that's been here for more than a year now. Yep. We have all of the racial issues that we're dealing with, and all of the other social issues that go along with that, sexism and all the other things. Then we look at the economic system. All of these systems are based on communication and developing relationships. And right now, we're operating from two polar opposites, if you will. We don't really have, or we haven't established a middle ground. So what we do is we go from one pole to the next pole, one extreme to the next extreme. And on that way, we find a little place here somewhere right in here that seems to work for everybody, or it's moving towards that. But then because it's pendulum swinging, it just keeps right on moving through that.
Yep.
And it goes over to the extreme. So, you know, our idea is that this new thought approach, this new thought ideology that states we can build a world that works for everyone, that works for all, and it really should be a work for all, because we have to include the people, the planets, the animals, you know, everything, because it is a web of life. Right. That we have to come up with a way, if you will, and I dare say it, that takes the best of both, because there's no system within itself that is totally objectable. I don't think. There's good and bad in everything. So how do we create a platform, and not doing a hodgepodge, of course, because that's not going to work. But how do we create a platform to allow the good to rise and the bad to be minimized? Because we live in a cause and effect world. There's always going to be things that someone doesn't like.
Right. Yes. So we find ourselves in a both-and world.
Yes.
We find ourselves in a place where we're saying, okay, we can't go back to what was. That's really just not possible. Mm-hmm. I've said this about this since the very beginning, right? Once you understand this philosophy, once you understand even the basic principles of New Thought, you can't go back. Yeah. No. You can't go back to before. You can't. You can pretend you don't understand the law of cause and effect. You can pretend that you don't really understand personal responsibility, but the truth of the matter is you can't hide from it, and you can stick your head in the sand, but at the end of the day, you still know the truth. Yeah. So once we awaken to this, the only possible path is to follow the journey of enlightenment, to follow the journey of becoming what we're here to do and what we're here to serve.
Yeah, yeah. Because once you know, as you said, there's no way not to know. Right. Once I know fire burned, There is nothing short of amnesia that's going to keep me not knowing that if I stick my hand in that fire, boy, it is going to burn. It only needs to happen once. I know now. Not on my own volition anyway.
Right.
And so when we begin to establish relationships, we begin to establish communities, when we begin to understand that many hands make light work, then we begin to see the benefit of collective work and collective economics and collective thought think tanks, if you will, to get us out of some of these bigger problems that we have, because we have many different viewpoints looking at it that may make a suggestion that works.
Right. Making suggestions that work. Therein is the fun part, right? So here we go again in this roundabout exploration, that in some regards we have to experience that which doesn't work to it'd be nice to not, but we have to experience what doesn't work in some degree to affirm, okay, been there, done that, doesn't work, what's next, where do we go?
Yeah.
And so trial and error is still sort of the norm to get us back to that place of, okay, now here we go, here we find something that does work.
Yeah. Because you think about the Wright brothers, or if you think about Edison or Bell making lights and phones and planes, they tried many different things before they got the one that worked.
Right.
But each time they learned something. If it was nothing else other than that does not work, so I'm not going to do that again. Right? Now I may modify it, but that didn't work. And so when we begin to look at our lives and the community and the world at large in that way, we've tried the systems we have now. We've tried pure capitalism for a very long time. It leaves a lot lacking. There's some things that are great. There's some things that are lacking. We've looked at pure communism, the same thing. We've looked at pure socialism, the same thing. All of these systems has a way of creating exclusive communities and separation. And we have to begin to understand and recognize that we don't want everything to be the same.
Right.
The beauty of life is the diversity and the inclusivity of it, of how things support each other. So how do we begin to create that at a human level? It's already happened at a nature level.
Right. On a natural level, it couldn't stop.
Right.
And truthfully, on the human level, it really can't stop either. It's got to keep going. Are we awake to it? Are we consciously awake to this truth enough to direct it towards the ends and the means that are beneficial to the longevity of human life on the planet?
Yes.
Yeah. Or not. Yeah. Because we can use this power. We can use these same principles to be in a destructive mode.
Right.
And we talk about this again with the Sharif Abdullah's work and A World That Works for All. There are plenty of people out there that are working to tear down the system or to deny the system or don't recognize how the system's working. And so they're looking to install an old system, an old way of being. Yeah. That I think we've pretty well proven that the old way of being does not work.
Right. And so you bring up a good point there, because what comes to mind is we now need a new operating system. The operating systems that worked previously, and a computer obviously is one of the great metaphors for that. You cannot use the operating system that Apple had for the Lisa or for the Mac 2E. Those operating systems do not work anymore. Now, they may still work in isolation, but if you're trying to get some interoperability between the the phones and the tablets and the TV and all of that, they're
We don't
not
care.
working.
Right. They can't talk.
No communication, no relationship.
No relationship. Sorry, no relationship. You got to go. Uh, yeah, I remember when I didn't want to have to upgrade from Windows XP.
Yes.
No, no, I don't want to upgrade. No, I don't want to. Like, wait a minute. Aren't we? We're here to upgrade. We're here to take those upgrades. Because truthfully, if we don't do them, who's going to? Right?
Right.
It's our work to follow the upgrade, to be the upgrade.
Yeah. And that's a great example, because when you look at it, at a certain point, it could work by itself. But then the new programs that came out, they
There's
took
a
up too
horror
much.
movie about that.
Yeah, they took up too much memory. So you didn't have enough memory. Or for it to run properly, you needed a faster CPU and you couldn't. And so you got pushed into a new world, which is always frightening as opposed to going freely.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now. And that's why we're looking at this new thought world that works for all, because we're going whether we want to go or not.
Right.
And so you can, as they say, you can go willingly or unwillingly, but you're going to go.
It was a very short leap from, oh wow, I got this cool thing called a cell phone, to $1,000 computer in my hand
Mm-hmm.
that is more powerful than what we use to send people to the moon.
Yes. Yes.
And this is already outdated.
And think about this. There was a time when you went on vacation, let's say, you had a phone and a camera.
Yeah.
Not anymore. And then I had to take my film and get it developed. Now you have some hobbyists and some enthusiasts who still do that with camera. And I just saw an ad the other day for a new Galaxy that's coming out. I don't know when it is. They've now partnered with Olympus, the camera maker, and they're going to start having Olympus create their cameras. So you truly will have a company that has been steeped in camera add that technology to the phone.
To the device.
So now you have a phone, a computer, and a camera in one device.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's pretty amazing. It is not only amazing, right? And we've got all this technology. It brings me to this point of it all comes back to the memory.
Yes.
It's all coming back to, and so we can use this right metaphorically as well, folks, right? It all comes back to what we store. Because when I had a phone and a camera, my camera had limited memory. Yeah, maybe it had a micro SD card or something like this. And I think I remember the first time somebody saying, just wait, it's all about the cloud. What's the cloud? Oh, don't worry, man. You don't understand it, but just wait. It's all about. So we had limited memory. Now, when I had to take that memory card out of our camera once a week and offload those photos, because otherwise the camera would fill up, you couldn't do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
My folders were actually much better organized. You go back and you look at my old hard drives, pull them out of the safe. There's a certain point where there's like a folder of every month. 20 this year with these folders, 2011 with these folders, January, February, March, April, and all my photos for those. And then all of a sudden, all that stopped. Because all of a sudden, we had unlimited storage. And all of a sudden, we had the cloud. And all of a sudden, we had supposedly unlimited memory.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you didn't have enough memory in the cloud and you had to buy some more, and then you had too much, and then everything's in the cloud, and now they're charging you an arm and a leg for cloud storage.
Yeah.
It's all about the memory.
Right.
So what are we choosing to hold on to? What are we choosing to hold on to, and what are we choosing to continually draw back up into our lives? The good stories, the stories of defeat, the oh my God, I don't understand this guy, or the wow, this guy's got some pretty wild ideas. I think I could probably learn something from it.
Right.
Right.
And that's the key right there. We can all learn something from everyone because everyone has a different perspective. You can have two people live in the same neighborhood that experience the same relative kinds of things, but because of their upbringing of their parents that get grafted onto them, not to mention what gets fired in the DNA, you can both look at the same thing. We could both look at the same thing and have a totally different explanation for it, a totally different description of what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in my mind, as we look at this new thought today, we need this standard set of principles that gives us room to operate in, but they still, like my favorite is the principle of electricity. We can get electricity through turbine, through hydro, through solar, through fossil fuel. I mean, there are many different ways to get to satisfy the requirements of that principle of electricity to get it. And it's the same in our life. There are many different approaches to creating harmony, to creating true relationship, to creating a world that works for all. But we have to have a basic foundation on what these principles we're going to build on are. And so the principle of trust, the principle of open communication, the principle of collective work and responsibility, the idea of collective economics. These things have to be in place, and then as principles, and then we have latitude on how we achieve them.
Right. Right. Then we have, yes, that's the opportunity for the choice.
Yes, exactly.
Say. And this is right, you bring me to a reminder of, there's a great thought question in New Thought in this philosophy. And part of it is, how do we hold someone to a question of ethics in a philosophy that believes it's all good, that everything's happening for a purpose? Now, the answer to that is pretty simple, actually. We've made an agreement. So along the way, there is an agreement. Now, in Centers for Spiritual Living, it's part of our ministerial vow. It's part of our ministerial agreement that we agree to a certain set of ethical standards, of ethical principles, of ethical behaviors. The behaviors are spelled out, what you do and what you don't do in this position, right? Don't fleece the flock is one of them. Yes. There's another one that goes with the flock, but we're not here talking about that today. The point is that we make commitments, and those commitments are really only as good as we make them to ourselves. Because I can tell you in theory that, yes, I'm on board with you, and I make this commitment to support you. And let's take one of my favorite scenarios, Colorado. Here in Colorado, we don't all need a snowblower. Right. No matter where you live in Colorado, not every house, not every household needs that. We can utilize those collective resources together. But we have to have an agreement. And I have to be committed. And I can say I'm going to do that for you. But until the snow falls and I get out there and put my boots on and get my blower out and do your walk, none of that is really true.
Yeah.
So we live by our example. We live by our demonstration to say, hey, I've made this commitment. It's to the relationship that we have. It's to my effort to be a part of a world that works for all life. And here's my demonstration of that commitment.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it's that tough, Z.
No, it's not. The tough part is the commitment, right? You think about anything that I know, think about an exercise program, or eating program, a commitment to go through old stuff and get rid of stuff. the stickling point of all of it is the commitment. Am I committed to doing it? Am I really going to take the time and be honest and go through my closet and say, I know this don't fit anymore, but I like it, so I keep it.
Right.
Or I know I can give this book away, but it's special. Although I got two of them, I want to keep it. Why? I mean, I got a couple of books because I got an early edition and a later edition, and I'm like, I want to keep it. But the information is not that much different.
Right.
And so that's that, we have to be committed to living this life that is going to work for everyone.
Yep. So there it is. Okay, you said drop the rubber chicken. You said the other big word of the day: commitment.
Commitment.
And I've been preaching this for a while now, for a number of years. Right? I don't want people to give financially to somewhere where they are spiritually fed. Because to me, that's a transactional experience. And that's transactional. That's like telling the wood stove, give me heat and I'll give you some wood.
Yeah.
Hey, right? You got to give the wood stove the wood first, then it gives you the heat. By giving to where we are spiritually fed, we set up I believe we set up an unhealthy consumer based relationship versus giving to where I am spiritually committed.
Mm-hmm.
So where am I spiritually committed to? What organizations, communities? Now I give to New Thought Media Network. I'm committed to seeing this ministry move forward, but I give other places as well from my
Mm-hmm.
own contributions. And I know you do the same. I
Yep.
give to your community, CSL Denver. Um, uh, I'd love for it to be more. It's not. It's what it is. It's a demonstration that I have a commitment in consciousness and in form
Mm-hmm.
to see this thing move forward.
And the interesting thing there is every little bit helps, right?
Right.
So there's no gift that's too small. There's no service that's too small. There's no giving of yourself, however that happens, that's too small.
Because it's not about the thing itself. It's about the commitment and consciousness to the vision, to the mission that yes.
Right. And so, I love the saying we used to say in the South, many hands make light work. You know,
Yep.
if we got enough hands doing just a little bit, that will help. So think about the communities that center around cloud funding. Of course, you have some people who are big donors, but the idea of cloud funding is there's a situation, person, place, or thing that needs some support financially. So they set up the funding, and the idea is if I get somebody showing me $5, then if I get a bunch of $5, we good.
Yep.
And then that way it doesn't hurt anybody as much. Not that it hurts, but it's an easier exchange where we many hands make light work.
Might work. Right. Yes. I'm flashing on a thing that we were taught, God, ad nauseum. And as soon as I say it, you're going to smile and laugh, right? 80% of the work done by 20% of the people.
Yeah.
80% of the money comes from 20% of the people. 80% of everything comes from 20%. Bull hookies. I want to get rid of that, right? Because that's not what it's meant to be. The nature is we're all doing this together. We're all working this thing called life together.
Right.
Um, let's love and logic, right? Everybody does their fair share of the chores. We've got that on our fridge. Everybody in this family does their fair share of the chores. We're all pulling our part
Yep.
to make the system work.
Yep.
And we're each going to bring a different set of gifts and skills and talents. Some are going to be better at some things. Some are going to be really good at figuring out the investments and, hey, let's put a little money over here and we can make a profit here, or let's not do this. Let's put our efforts here. So I flash back to your idea, right? The community garden is another great idea, because there's only so many hours in a day. And this is what stops most people from gardening, right? I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I could give you half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
But a good garden needs time every day, several times a day.
Mm-hmm.
You all are intelligent folk. You know where this is going, right? It's nothing really, whatever really happens in a vacuum alone. Right. So if it's not in a partnership, if it's not, then it's not going to work. We've got to build these relationships. And New Thought is the philosophy that teaches to look beyond the apparent divide. We're divided in America right now. See, you and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the biggest thing, right? We're divided on guns. We're divided on birth control. We're divided on gender choice. We're divided on so many different things, or not even, I don't want to say choice, excuse me. We're divided on gender identities. We're divided on race. We allow ourselves to be divided on so many conversations and on so many topics that we've got to bring this back into relationships of unity, harmony, wholeness, oneness.
And that community garden, you think about it. How many people, and I'm sure few people have done this, got a tomato plant or two, planted the tomato plants in good pots, good soil, got good sun, and at some point you say, good God, I don't want any more tomatoes.
Right.
Because those tomato bushes are just blooming and flowering and giving you tomatoes that you calling people, look, I got some tomatoes, come over here and get a couple.
Cool.
Are they going to go bad, right?
Yep.
So, which it speaks to the whole idea of a community. Because you don't dictate when the tomatoes get ripe, and the tomatoes only going to be good for 4 or 5 days before it starts going bad.
Yep.
And so the whole thing is set up for sharing. You look at any of these plants, whatever plant it is that's in a garden, a food garden, those are the kinds of things if they're done right, they show up in abundance.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to hoard, you give.
Right. We share.
Yeah.
We're all in it together.
Yes.
Come on down to my place for dinner.
Yeah.
Come on. Again, the way it used to be, right? Probably even more so, knowing what I know of your background, probably even more so than mine, but there was a pot of pasta on the stove, and I was at somebody else's house. There was never a question of, your mama be all right with this? Oh yeah, she'd be fine with it. All right, sit down, have a plate, right? Yep. And it that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't today. Does that still happen today? Tell us, folks, if you're watching and you know of these, right? Let us know is this stuff still happening like that today? Where is community happening in great expression like that?
Yeah. Because I remember my friend's mother, boy, sit down here and get something to eat. Well, I don't care if you eat again. Sit down here and we got more than enough, right? That whole idea of sharing, and even though it may look like we don't have enough, we have more than enough.
Right.
And so you begin to create this idea, this attitude, this way of life that lets you know that whatever you have, you can share with another. And by doing that, it creates a closeness, a reciprocal relationship, and an understanding between two or more people that will last forever.
Right. Yep. I'm with you. Hey, you know, Wayne, I think we both miss hugs too. and the new thought for today is we're gonna hug again.
Yes.
We're getting there. We're gonna hug again.
I heard today that 50% of the adults in the United States have received at least one shot.
Nice. There we go. That I trust that's a good number. That feels reassuring.
Yeah.
As I'm gonna get my second on Monday. So
it's promising.
It is very promising. There's and you know, it's kind of crazy, kind of tough that it had to come, that we needed this.
Yeah.
Now, I understand, folks, right? That's a defeatist attitude. That's a limiting attitude. I don't, and it's kind of crazy that, wow, what we've just gone through and the opportunities that have opened and the places where a lot of people have not been open to. But yeah, you've got something good, I can tell.
Think about how many, because I'm just sitting there thinking about myself, how many times I said, with all of the strife and stuff that was going on, thinking about what it's going to take for us to come together. Oh, it's going to take a big global thing. You know, we don't know what it is. Well, this is that big global thing that has presented itself to us, that we've all prayed for in some kind of way. To say we need some catastrophic thing that would allow us to see that we're all connected, that we're one humanity, that we need to work together. We need to be accountable and responsible for our brothers and sisters. And now this is it. And so the question now becomes, are we going to step up to the plate? And that word from before, be committed to making it happen.
Yep. There we are, folks. Are we committed to being the change we wish to see? Are we committed to being a new thought, to bringing the new thought philosophy forward into the world and into our lives and into our experience?
Yep.
I believe we are. I think we're up for it. Hey, so let's share our new segment with everybody. What do you think?
Yes, I think it's time.
So we're not going to tell you what it is, folks. We're just going to show you, and then we'll explain it. So starting today and moving forward, now we've been talking about, we've got a bunch of new programs coming. New programs coming up, but specifically here, we're working with a number of different people to bring forward a number of different special guests. And we're going to start in a couple of weeks on the 4th, I believe it is, of May. Reverend Celeste Frazier is going to be with us, and she and a team of people are spearheading a very exciting project. We're going to tell you more about that on the 4th of May. And we're going to move into a place of really bringing you some more intermittent segments, sometimes where we're specifically talking about stories where we see people doing the work of of creating a world that works for everyone. And along with our discussions, Elzia introduced me to something that I hadn't heard for a long, long time. It comes from Robert's Rules of Order. So anybody here familiar with governance models and being on boards and stuff like that might know the name Robert's Rules of Order. And in that, there's a thing that I had long forgotten. And that's the basis for our new segment. So enough talking. Let's show you what we're talking about. You ready? There it is, for the good of the order here on New Thought Today. Z, why don't you tell everybody a little bit and give everybody a little background here?
Sure. For the good of the order is, I'm in several organizations, and we have our agendas when we go to the meeting, and we go through that. But before we close, there's a segment that says for the good of the order, for people to bring up ideas, comments, statements, introduce programs that are needed, but were not part of the agenda. Something that may have been spawned by the agenda, but did not necessarily fit in that particular place. So for the good of the order is going to be the opportunity for you, the audience, to bring up ideas, to make comments, to make points that you may see things differently than what we see. But let's begin to have this dialogue, because that's what community is about, dialogue. And we need your dialogue on how we can begin to create this world that works for all based on this new thought philosophy, which at the heart of it is thought is creative. Words are creative. And so the more we begin to communicate and share ideas and share thoughts, the more we will begin to create this world.
Yes, exactly. So the way to do this, folks, is send us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org, and we're going to dedicate a portion of our program every week near the end here in our sort of our wrap up portion of the day to open those letters, to read those emails on the air, or perhaps have you on the program itself live. You're welcome to if appropriate, and we'll make prior arrangements, bring you into the studio, and we can talk here live. Or again, just send those emails, ministertalk@ntmedia.org, and we'll discuss what you share with us on our next episode, on a future episode. We really do want to include you in this discussion, because this isn't just about us telling you what is going to happen. This is about all of us being together, co-creating what wants to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I think there's no greater way to wrap it up for the day than to say thank you, because we're here co-creating what wants to happen.
Right. And so please, we're asking you guys to do, because this is how we begin to continue to add the walls and the studs and whatever it is that we need to build this community house.
Yeah.
And we want to know if you want, 2 bathrooms or 1. We want to know if you want, if you want your windows, if your bedroom facing the south side or the north side, or we need to know these things. And so we're looking forward to you interacting in this conversation.
Nobody ever picks just 1 bathroom, do they?
Not today.
No, not anymore. 2. You can't live without 2 bathrooms.
Because everybody would be late, right?
Exactly. Even if there's just 2 of us, even once the kids are gone, that's what it's like. No, 2 bathrooms, 1 for each of us. We each got our own bathroom.
Oh man!
All righty, folks, we're gonna get out of here. This is New Thought Today, for today, the 20th of April, 2021. We will be back next week again and again and again. Until then, thanks for being with us. Thanks for hitting the donate button. We're gonna get out of here. And we'll be back next week. Until then, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.